Okay. Hi and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me in your studio.
Yeah, look, thank you for coming out.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was really looking forward to this session today, session episode, whatever you want to call it, because the last time we talked, you had so much to say, and I got really excited about that.
Yeah.
Because your opinions resonated with me. The things that you were talking about resonated with me. So I was very excited to come today. A little bit about why we're doing this podcast. I am Tina. I'm the the sole founder of MarketHub. We are a digital marketing agency in Melbourne. And why we started doing episodes like this is because we focus on compassionate marketing. You would have some thoughts on this too. Right now, there is just so much noise on social media in terms of AI and the ethical use of AI. So much content out there. However, nobody's really sure as to what should be used for marketing and how people should be approached through marketing,
Yeah.
and how AI should be ethically used in marketing.
Yeah.
And business owners that don't know much about marketing are finding it quite hard to understand who to go to and what are some things that they should follow and shouldn't follow. So I was talking to someone that I know, and they said, if it is something that's bothering you, why don't you do something about it?
Yeah.
So here I am doing something about it.
Amazing.
So today I wanted to talk to you as the founder and CEO of Investment Partner Group. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about compassionate marketing and how you have used social media to grow a beautiful business in Australia for the last 15 years or so now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, thank you for providing the opportunity, I think. Marketing never came naturally to me. I'm an MBA from Melbourne Business School, by the way. And I could never tell the difference between sales and marketing. That's how much I sucked at marketing. So social media presence typically happened for us about maybe 3.5, 4 years ago.
Okay.
And it was a friend, who basically said, hey, you're a wealth of information. You need to start sharing some of this information. And God, I go back and look at some of the videos that I used to do 4 years ago. God, they're terrible. And please don't look at it But ultimately, it was always about providing value. And people resonated with the value. They didn't see who the face was, how you looked. I felt the more raw the videos were, the better they performed, because people connected with content. They didn't connect it with the face. They didn't connect it with where are you making the videos, or how is the video quality, or what's the sound quality like. It was always about value. And so for us, while our business was always growing through word of mouth, social media typically was a place for us to provide more value and throw more value. And so I think the first year when we started, we hardly got anyone. Nothing, like no followers, nothing. You had, friends and family laughing at you. It's like, look at your videos, and you'll go to a public setting and people will be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing these videos? And, it's a bit like borderline embarrassing. And like, I don't know, because you're putting yourself out there. A lot of people don't know what you do or what your business looks like, right? So it's almost you putting yourself out there.
And as an introvert, that must be even harder for you to deal with.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And because people sideline you and they'll hold you in a social setting and be like, oh, I watched this video and it was terrible. And I was like, what?
How dare you?
And those are the implications that you basically go through. And yes, you're right. As an introvert, you feel, should I be doing this? Like, people, are they really looking forward to this? I think the pivotal moment for us was, or me typically was, that I set up a Facebook group. And I could see a lot of traction coming through the group, and people being very supportive and asking a lot of questions, and, getting into basically, knowing more about what we are and who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
And I used to have like 10 calls a day, just random calls, like people calling and asking for, just value, right?
Yeah.
And that's all I did for the first year, basically. Jump on calls, talk to people, tell me what your problems are. I'm going to solve it for you.
Okay.
And basically that's how the traction started. And so, when you talk about compassionate marketing, I think typically it's value-driven marketing, right? It's not so much about you asking something back. It's about, okay, how can you help people? And you planting the seeds of network for you to sow them 2, 3, 4 years down the track. And so that's why when I talk to a lot of marketeers today, they say, oh, do performance marketing. And we never did performance marketing. We only started performance marketing probably a month ago. And I hate it because it's so pushy sales. It's not pull sales, right?
I agree.
And from my perspective, it's all about the organic brand. If you want to build a true brand, then the value-driven marketing and compassionate marketing plays a big role in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got so many questions. Okay, so when you started, that Facebook group and you started getting 10 calls a day, were these values that you gave to people for free, or were you charging them as well?
Nothing.
Yeah,
so I didn't even have a calendar at
Yeah.
that time. So there was literally no Calendly at that time. Our business was not set up to scale at all, if I go back like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these calls were random people calling a random person because they connected to this person. And they liked what he said and they liked how I articulated things. And that was a lot of feedback that I used to get as to, oh, I love, and I'm a writer. I'm not a video person, really. I can really like good content.
Right.
And so that's where I really performed quite well on the Facebook group because I didn't have to, do a lot of videos. I could just, write up content or give really good comments and people would start interacting.
Right. Okay.
So it was not so much video content. I think video content typically came in year 2 a lot more professionally. When we talked about the podcast and, a lot of the reels and the shorts and basically, that basically came through together.
And so you learned about marketing all your own? All on your own. Okay.
Yes. And look, I should give credit to my head of marketing. So when I first started in marketing, I used to edit my videos myself and, get some of these tools,
As
on
we all
apps,
do.
as we all do. And I used to suck at it. And my wife is like, what are you doing? There's loud music in the background. Like you need to dumb it down so that people can actually listen to you, right?
Fair point.
And so it was just like basic things that you're basically learning. And then I have a really good friend, Cheryl, and so she introduced a VA into our business, or virtual assistant into our business. And so she used to do everything. So she used to do the digitals and the social media posts and write up content and, manage, my diary and everything in the same thing. And I was like, well, that's great. Let's hire 10 of these people and they'll do everything. And that was the mindset.
Okay.
And then we got Farah, who was our head of marketing, and she basically helped me understand, well, no, content is different, and video is different, and SEO is different, and social media posting is different. And then we slowly and gradually built our team up. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. We've jumped ahead a little bit, but I do want to ask this question. With Farah coming on board and asking you, or actually sort of educating you that there are specialized people for each of these tasks in marketing.
Yeah.
How did you take that? Like, did you initially understand that that's what she's trying to say? Or were you like, oh, no, those VAs, they're good for doing everything and we can just hire 8 of them?
Yeah. I think the conversation, as a business owner, the conversation is always about ROI and value for money, right?
Yes.
And so I said to Farah that because you are coming in, we need to let the VA go because I can't afford both of you.
Yeah.
And basically that was the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And then Farah was like, no, if you hire a person, and again, whole of our marketing team is overseas, right? So, we went into an offline model, which is not easy to implement. We used to have an online marketing person, which was super expensive at that time. And we never went down the path of agency route at that time because I couldn't understand the value because I didn't understand marketing at all.
Right.
The agency part was later down the track, and we can talk about a bit about that too. And so Farah coming on board was, okay, Farah, we are going to get rid of VA and now you do all of this stuff, right?
Farah's like, no,
Yeah,
this is not how we do it.
She's like, no, I'm the head of marketing. So I'll manage all of these people and I'll do content strategy for you and I'll do brand strategy for you. And I was like, too many jargons and too many just, fluff, I want results. And so naturally as a business owner, you're like, okay, if I'm spending, you know, $5,000 in a person, I need to at least get one sale out of this person. So I was asking her to jump on sales calls, and she's like, what are you smoking? Like, you know, this is marketing. I'm not a salesperson. And so, like, there was a massive education piece that I had to go through, where I had to not only explain it to myself, but also my directors that, hey, no, you can't expect some of these from her. Like, this is not her go-to thing. You know, the sales is sales, the marketing is marketing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, kudos to her for, you know, jumping up and being like, hey, this is not what you're supposed to be asking me to do.
100%.
This is what I'm supposed to do. And
100%.
You're supposed to help me build this team.
100%. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so she spent close to about like 2 months defining who our client persona is and who are we trying to target and who is our audience and what are we trying to do and what is our, you know, brand voice and how. And I think one of the biggest problem with a lot of business owners is typically who is doing video form content is they are the brand, they become the brand, which basically means that it's not a business, you know, you die and the brand dies. And so how do you differentiate the company from the person? Because the person in itself is great and you can have a brand of your own, but the company needs to be a business on its own as well. You take Gary Vee as an example, right? Exactly. So Gary Vee is a brand, but then he has Valor Media as a brand in itself, right? And so how do you distinguish between the two? For sure. So, and you need to think about this quite logically, quite carefully, very earlier in the piece. And so I'm super humbled and grateful that, you know, I was lucky to find the right people at the right times who could guide me and mentor me to go into the right direction. So, for sure.
And while you were just saying that, I just remembered a local example of that happening in Melbourne itself. I don't know if you've ever been to Oakley. There is a restaurant called Vanilla.
Yeah.
It does so well, that restaurant. Whenever you go, it's completely full. It's chuckers all the time. But during the pandemic, the owner, who was the brand of the restaurant, everyone knew him. He passed away.
Wow.
And as soon as that happened, because of the pandemic as well, and because of his brand dying, it took them a good 1.5 years to figure out who they were as a restaurant, and sort of rebrand and come back. And they had to do a lot of renovations, a lot of rebranding to then come back and stand as a restaurant, the name as a brand, instead
100%.
of just like one person being the brand.
Definitely.
So yes, when we're starting a business, one person does become a brand, but I think it's always good to think in the future and start thinking what that overall brand of the company should look like instead of that one person being the brand, which is what you're referring to with Gary Vee.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is that something that you are thinking about as well? Because right now you are the face of...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I think one question that my business coach always asks me when he first talked to me as well was, can the business run without you? You know, and we were at a position where the business could not run without me. And so that was the first step, where the business can sustain and run without, and so you can go on holidays.
Yeah.
The second
first step.
Yeah,
holidays.
the first step. The second step, which a lot of people don't follow through, is can the business grow without you?
Yes.
Yeah, so it can run without you, great, but can it grow without you? Because if it cannot grow without you, it's not a business, it's just a glorified job still.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the path that we are towards, where, you know, I want to ensure that there are other people who become the face of the brand. There are other people. And so what I'm intentionally doing is I'm diluting my own brand, or I'm creating my own brand separately. And the book is the part of that. And the podcast is the part of that, where I'm like, okay, this is me.
Yeah.
And this is Investor Partner Group, right? And so you need to distinguish between the two.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So is your sort of aim for your brand, for your own brand, and the aim for the company itself, how is it differentiating?
Yeah.
What sort of content are you going to be talking about, and what sort of content is the company going to be talking about?
It's very interesting. So right now, look, property still remains my passion. And, you know, I have 3 passions in life, right? Property, data, and, you know, love for teaching, basically, right? And I've combined the 3 together through the business. If you look at Investor Partner Group is a property investment firm. It's a one-stop shop when it comes to property investing. If you talk about Moxin Reza is an entrepreneur at heart. So IPG is one of the businesses that I do. Ultimately, like I think about the businesses every day, all day. I implement probably 10 businesses a year, and 2 succeed and, 8 fails.
Okay.
So, and I think that's where, the real me really going to come out, where I'm going to talk a bit about that and what does that really mean, and, about taking risks and trying various different things out, and how do you, rise from the ashes and, be successful and succeed in some of these things. So, that's the path, and, that's the direction that we would potentially take by splitting the two separately.
Okay.
But it's also important to understand that a lot of the credibility that stands with IPG stands because of me, which means that, you need to create that credibility of the brand in itself. And so, one of the things that we are trying quite aggressively is, using people within the business for them to shine, right? So Harrison, who is our, head of acquisitions, you would see him being featured on a lot of reviews and jumping on the podcast and being the social person out there.
Yes.
And so you want people to recognize people within the business rather than coming in searching for me, because people would jump on a call, and this is such an interesting story. Like, people would jump on a call and they'd be like, oh, I want to speak to Moxin, right? Because naturally, they've seen me talk, right? And there was a point in time where I used to jump on the calls, because as a growing business, that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
You jump on the calls, you talk to a lot of people. But there was this one person, when I jumped on the call, like, this is going back maybe 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. This person was like, why are you on the call? And I was like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Like who else is supposed to be here?
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opener for myself as well.
Yeah.
So he's like, and so we had a really good conversation. He was really happy. He did convert as a client, by the way.
Okay.
But he said, I had 2 thoughts. One is either you're really genuine and you are like, talking to people on a day-to-day basis, or 2, the business is doing really bad, because if the CEO of the business has to jump on sales calls,
I mean, that's bad.
there must be something wrong with the business. And I was like, wow. Okay, so I think that was the pivotal point for myself, where I was like, okay, we've made it as a brand.
Yeah.
Now I can step away and scale up and start
Yes.
handing out the reins to other people to basically start taking some of these calls. So
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
People
100%.
don't expect you to get on the call.
Correct. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very simple, right? I mean, you call Apple, you don't expect Steve Jobs to be on the call.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of business owners don't understand that.
Yes.
That they think that just because they are doing the branding, naturally people are going to expect. No, not really. People have this inherent expectation that, of course, I'm not going to talk to this person. There would be 3 layers of different people that I'm going to speak to first.
Yes.
Before I get an opportunity to
And
talk
that
to this
makes
person.
sense. Yeah. I think as business owners, we forget that.
Yes.
And I think I haven't thought of that at all.
Yeah.
So, I've got a bit of work to do still, but that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So back when you had just started your social media and you had a few followers on Facebook, a few followers on YouTube. Currently, you have over 10,000
Yes.
followers on YouTube, which is
Yes.
amazing. So how did you find your brand started growing back then? Was it only through regular posting, or people were starting to talk about you, they were sharing your content, and that's why you started creating like a community around you?
Yeah. I think there was 2 main things. So one was an omni-channel approach that we always took. And 2 was the sense of community that we wanted to create. So Facebook is still very pivotal. And I always say this to people. I talk to a lot of people who are creating content. I say, select one platform that becomes your core platform. So don't go around doing everything on every platform, at the start at least. And so focus on one platform and do as much as you can on that platform. And so Facebook became quite pivotal for us. We have our Facebook group, my profile, started interacting a lot with the profile. And you have to be really genuine. So you providing advice, it's not just about videos, it's also about connecting with people, because unfortunately that's how some of these algorithms work. It's not just about you throwing content out there, it's about, you interacting with people, you throwing comments, you talking to people on messages. All of these things basically matter. And so for a lot of people, sometimes it's Insta, it's YouTube. For us, it was basically Facebook at that time. What we tried to do at that time was create that community and push everything through that community. That community became almost like our dynamic landing page. You know how people have, landing pages and they'll
Yeah.
try to bring people there?
Yeah.
We were like, no, come to the Facebook group.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, and we basically use that Facebook group for everything. So we would share client stories there. We would do Facebook Lives there. We would share, our deals there, what we were acquiring on a day-to-day basis. We'll share our problems there. And so, like anyone who wanted to be our client, we said, okay, join the Facebook group. And what they would basically get out of that Facebook group is the whole interaction. These 7 interactions that people talk about?
Yes.
They'll get 1 million interactions in Facebook group.
Wow.
Because they'd be like, okay, I can see what deals that they're doing. I can see what the clients is talking about. I can ask questions and people respond to me. And so it almost became a dynamic landing page. And like, it wasn't intentional. Like this wasn't thought through in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
It just happened. And and that sense of community really, really worked for us at the start.
Okay. So you basically did start from the scratch. Like you didn't have any like external investors who helped you start the company as such. You literally started from the ground
100%.
up.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So and also the fact that for something like property investment, I'm only just starting to get into it. So I have so many questions.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing back when you started your Facebook group, it would have been such a value add for people who found you to be on a Facebook group like that, where they could just ask any question they wanted.
Definitely.
And they were getting expert opinion straight from you.
Definitely.
So that sense of community is next level.
Yeah.
I don't think you find that very easily these days.
Yeah.
Even with some of the biggest investment companies out there right now, I don't think even they give out this much content as much as you do.
100%.
So,
yeah.
well done.
No, thank you. And it was so interesting. Like people would actually message me and say, because we used to have a public group.
Yeah.
And they would message me and say, can you make the group private so that we can ask questions? Because they don't want their family to know about this, or they don't want, people outside. And of course, public groups is open to everyone. And so we had to take a conscious call of making the group private so that people can be a lot more open in the group. And then I think during those days, there was no anonymous posts and people had to use, their names to do the post. And so you had to be really careful. The group was like, we had a dedicated resource. We had to get a dedicated resource for the group, to making sure that, we don't have scammers in the groups, and, we are constantly providing value, and we're not flogging stock and we are not selling stuff. It's actually there to provide value. And so people could see that, the group is there typically to answer questions and help people motivate and guide them through, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And did you have a website at this point or not?
Yes, we did have a website, yes.
But the traffic was going to Facebook instead of the website?
Correct.
Okay. Do you remember if that affected your digital performance in terms of like SEO, for example?
I didn't even know about SEO that time.
Okay.
I had like zero
Let's have
idea.
this conversation.
Yeah, I thought, Google was the biggest scam, the SEO was the biggest scam, because that's like every article that you pick up, that's what they talk about, right?
Yes.
And I remember having a few conversations with people, and they're like, oh, you have to invest like $3,000 a month for 6 months, and then maybe you'll see some traffic. I was like, I don't need traffic. I have enough traffic on Facebook.
True.
So it was like very sort of counterintuitive for me. I was like, I'm not looking for traffic. I'm looking for leads. And so I was talking to people saying, let's do Google ads. And they're like, no, you shouldn't do Google ads. You should do SEO. I was like, no, I don't want to do SEO. And so I couldn't comprehend, like, how does it work? What are we trying to do? And so, because website was never a priority at all.
Yes.
Like, it was not. Like, we thought website meant nothing, from my perspective, because no one was converting through the website, etc. I think it almost took us 2 years to basically bring the website up. And I think since then, we have changed the website 3 times, because now I understand the power of the website and, getting people through, and what landing pages do they need to get to, and how do you attract them and hook them and hold them. And so, that's been an interesting journey too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were basically under the impression, or for you, it was reality, the fact that you were converting more from Facebook.
Yes.
So search engine optimization wasn't a priority. So when did you realize that you needed to, or did you ever invest in SEO?
No. I think we only started investing, and to be fair, we only started investing in SEO probably about a year ago.
Okay.
A year ago.
Yeah.
And our website authority is not because of the SEO. Our website authority basically became because we were getting a lot of media attention. Because I'm a writer,
Yes.
a lot of our blogs that we were posting through the website were naturally getting a lot of traction. And so poor Farah, she used to ask me all the time. She's like, you need to do content and you need to do SEO. And I was like, Farah, it's just a waste of time. You know, you're doing so well here. Like, why do you want to go somewhere else and do something else, right? And then I met the SEO guy who works in the team now. His name is Osama. And like the guy just opened up the world for me. He's like, I don't know, you're wasting so much time and effort. Like, this is the way forward. This is where you build the quality and this is how you rank. And so I think that world was an eye-opener for me. So, yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have met a lot of people on the way that have added things to your company.
Yes. And still, I think I'm still a knob when it comes to marketing. There is so
That's a
much
sign
in
of
the
a good
marketing.
leader.
Yeah. There is so much in marketing that happens right now. Like,
Yes.
it's just amazing. It's,
Yes.
yeah.
Awesome. So it sounds like Farah was one of them.
Yes.
Your SEO guy, what was his name?
Osama.
Osama.
Yes.
He sounds like a wonderful
Yeah.
addition to the group.
Yeah.
Who else do you wanna shout out? Anyone else?
Look, I'll shout out my tax director, and he hated marketing. He's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you spending this money? And I was like, no, like, this is our ATM. Like,
Yes.
this is what we are going to cash out on.
Yes.
And so I think the old school mentality of people or converting people on how marketing was done versus how it's done now,
Yes.
that pivot was really, really big for, you know, someone like my director, because he has always been old school. He's like, word of mouth works. Let's just focus on word of mouth. Let's give people a lot of discounts. Let's do, you know, paper, you know, marketing on people's letterboxes and, you know, and like
Flyers in the
flyers and stuff.
letterboxes.
And, you know, let's do open forums and, you know, put up a banner and stand somewhere. And I was
Right.
like, and basically that's where he was coming from. And I was like, I don't think that works anymore. Yeah.
I mean, it works for some brands, but
Yeah.
your brand is not
Yeah,
about
exactly.
that.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't think that is something that we need to do. And so, and one of the examples that I gave to him was, well, marketing is about finding the people that want to work with you in the place where they are,
Yes.
not where you are. Right. And I used to always quote him examples of Ferrari and Lamborghini. And I was like, have you ever seen their ads, or have you ever seen them doing open, you know,
Nope.
in a shopping center? Have you seen a Ferrari in the middle of a shopping center?
Yeah.
You don't, right?
No.
And so if you want to be that brand, you need to play like them, right?
Yes.
So, and it does not take $1 million. I think there is a massive stereotype there
Yes.
that for you to have a successful marketing brand, you need shit ton of money to basically do that. You don't.
No.
You just need good quality content.
Yes.
And a good strategy to play with.
For sure. Especially with the introduction of AI these days.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Pretty much everything can be done
Yes.
through AI. And you're saving at least 50% of the cost
100%.
from before.
100%.
What are your thoughts on AI?
Look, I mean, I don't think that we have completely, you know, jumped on the bandwagon of AI yet. We are still exploring a lot of things on AI side of things. We are exploring our appointment setters, and they are going to be an AI person.
Those where you pick up the phone and it's an AI talking to you and
Yeah.
you don't realize it's an
You
AI?
don't, like, it's so crazy because my ops team did that test on me, and so they made me talk to a person. I was like, oh, she's amazing. Let's hire her. She's like, what do you mean? She's an AI. I was like, what?
What do you mean hire?
And it was just amazing. Like, you throw any curveball questions at them and they
Really?
would answer you, and, you know, they'll take you back. And so we were basically trailing AI to seek feedback from the customers who have been through our system, our ecosystem, and they're being offboarded. So
Right.
we've bought a property for them, for example,
Yeah.
and we were basically using AI to seek feedback and say, hey, how was the journey? How did you feel? Any questions, any feedback? And even if you like swear at them, and they'd be like, oh, so gracious and so nice. And so we tested that out, and that was amazing. That was pretty good. And so we are rolling that out.
Amazing.
We are also testing out AI on the content making side of things. So it's not so much about the content in itself.
Yes.
A lot of people making a mistake of, because Google penalizes AI, like significantly.
Yes.
Over the last sort of 6 months, I think there have been websites where if you had an AI content, they'll take you off their search logs. They'll penalize the credibility of the website, etc. All of those things. So it's not so much about the content in itself.
Yeah.
One of the things as a successful entrepreneur that happens to you is you become really time poor, and so you have to be really careful about where you spend time. And so while you're writing a lot of content, you might not get time to record this content. And so what you're doing is you're using AI to, voice copy and do voiceovers and roll out podcasts in your own voice. And I think that's an amazing way of using technology to your own means as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have you come across this feature on Instagram right now where you have to say that your content is from AI?
Have to tick on it. Yes. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Have you used that? Have you not used that?
No, we haven't used it.
Have you been penalized for it?
No, we haven't used it. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think a lot of our content, when it comes to, as I said, social media is basically pure content.
Yes.
It's purely when we're doing, voiceovers, etc., is where we might use AI. We basically use, for example, I've said something and the recording didn't came out right, or the wordings are not clear, and so the team, what they would do is they'll cut it out, bring in an AI tool, do a voiceover and put it there, so that I don't have to go back and record it, because then the tone changes and I have to spend a lot more time, and the videographer has to spend a lot more time. And so those are some of the cool things where I was spending a lot of time previously redoing stuff.
Yes.
And now you don't. So yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Sure. I've personally always hated recording anything, because one thing, I hate the sound of my voice. The other, I just didn't know how to keep going back and forth. If something didn't record properly, you have to go back and do it all over again. I could never be an actress.
See,
so I love the fact that you just don't have to go back anymore.
The biggest problem with the podcast is that you have a guest here.
Yes.
And you do the recording. Yeah. And you don't really know how they have done, or how you've done, or how it's been turned out, right? Yeah. So you would have tools that are basically happening in the background. Yeah. And I think AI has been a lifesaver there, because I had this particular guest, and sorry, Peter, for mentioning you, and he was there from Adelaide, the poor guy. He flew here to record a podcast with me.
Dedication.
Yes, and loved the guy, amazing content. And we had 1.5 hour podcast. And he walked away, and I was like, hey, amazing content, awesome. I went back, and apparently something happened. And I think his voice disappeared, and I was like, holy, this is the worst thing that can ever happen to a content maker, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's he's flown back to Adelaide, and he messaged me on the plane saying, suck the trip, love the podcast. That was the highlight of the trip. And I was like, Jesus, I can't tell him.
Wow. Do I tell you now?
Yeah. And I just freaked out, and I kept telling Farah, you need to find me a solution for this, because I don't know what I'm going to do. And yeah, clearly I think they worked out a solution, and the voice came back, and they so I think a lot of these tools.
Lord.
Yeah.
Is he going to find out about the story?
He just found out.
He just
That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
You'll have to send him a clip. Amazing. Okay, cool. So with you as a business owner who has a team now of marketers, have you ever hired an agency in your life?
Yes. We did. And I think agency plays a big role in the marketing team. Typically what tends to happen is that your internal brand and your internal marketing, you cannot have all the capabilities. And that's what I learned very, very quickly. There would be certain capabilities that either you would have to hire or buy, right? And hiring some of these capabilities was almost impossible, because it's almost like you don't need them forever, but you need them to come in and do a particular task and then disappear.
Exactly.
And so that's where agencies played a really big part for us. The first and the foremost is PR and marketing. We sucked at PR and marketing. We had to basically go out to an agency who can help us, support us, and build that sort of capability within the team as well.
Yeah.
Awards and recognition. We sucked at writing awards. I think I thought awards were the simplest thing. You just tell what's happening, and you'll win one. And oh my God, there's so much detail that they require, and there is a particular voice and a particular lens that needs to come through. And awards play a big part in marketing, by the way.
Yes.
Because people resonate with, you have won an award.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter how small or big the award is.
Yeah.
And so the awards started becoming a big part of our marketing play as well. And so we had to hire an agency to do that.
Okay.
When it came to first time about our overall digital media strategy, overall across the board, we definitely had to reach out to people and see how it's done before we started taking stuff inside. Performance marketing, we used an agency, of course. We can't do it ourselves. Podcast, when we first started, we had to use an agency. My team had no clue how to do podcast.
Yeah.
And so, we slowly and gradually basically took it in-house.
Yes.
So we used the agency for almost a year.
Okay.
To help us. So, the agencies play a big role. And I believe there would still be a lot of stuff out there that we are not trying and testing out, that the agency would come in and help us scale up, etc. So, yeah.
For sure. Okay. So I get this question a lot, or maybe not a question per se. It's more of a fear that some of my clients come to me with. They always, whenever they meet me, they feel quite, feel like they can trust me. They feel comfortable with me.
Yeah.
However, they've dealt with other agencies in the past where they have been burned.
Yeah.
Either whatever promises were made were not delivered, or the work that was supposed to be done wasn't done.
Yeah.
So how did you go about finding the agencies that you wanted to work with, and what about them made you trust them more?
Yeah. Look, ultimately, I'm a very data-driven person. I'm a data scientist by profession, right?
Yes.
So for me, it was always about having very clear outcomes that I am trying to achieve with every engagement. And even with my own team, we have dashboards in place where I'm like, okay, I'm going to track this, and this is how I measure success.
Good.
So I don't care how you measure your success, but from my perspective, this is how I measure success. And that might be the most silliest thing, but I'll count the comments on a particular post and say, okay, if we hit 10 comments, then that's success for me, for example, right?
Sure.
And so typically what you need to do with agencies is that you need to be on the same page on how do you define success for that particular campaign or particular piece of work that they're doing, right? And if they are hitting those milestones and if they have agreed to it, then it's simple as that, right? A lot of these things, it's almost impossible for you to articulate what the return on investment is going to be. It's not like performance marketing where you spend $10 and you're going to get $100 back or $1,000 back. It's not, the response is not pretty much right there and then. And so you need to articulate what is the impact that you're trying to achieve. For example, with PR agency, when we started talking to them, I said, okay, with all the work that we are doing here, I want you to get me into 4 publications without me paying anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So it's as simple as that. And so it could be as simple as AFR sending Moxin Reza said this. I'm happy with that, right? Or news.com.au saying, oh, this guy said that.
Yeah.
And that I'm happy with that. Just the name and the branding is enough for me, or the website, right?
Yes.
And so being very articulative about it.
Yes.
For example, with awards, I said to the team that I don't expect you to win me awards, because the awards winning would be based on how I perform as a company. I want you to get me through the door. So, get me a short list. Out of this 10 awards that you're writing, get me 2 short lists.
Yeah.
And so being very realistic about the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, I think that basically keeps both of us in check.
Yes.
And you can see the return that is coming out from some of these things.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they have achieved the PR agency, they seem to have achieved what you were trying to do, because you have been in 7 News, you've been on ABC News.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they seem to have hit those milestones for you quite well.
Yes, definitely. And again, I think they spend a lot of time guiding our team to do what is necessary as well. Marketing is not about shining the light on what you have done. It's also about doing things in anticipation that you are going to shine light in the future. And that was something that I learned through the marketing agency. So they're like, okay, you need to do this, for you to actually then shine the light on some of these things that you are going to perform. Or awards was another thing where I was pretty keen about this particular award, and we didn't get shortlisted. And I was having a conversation with Angela. I was like, Angela, I was so keen to get this award and at least be listed. And as an early companies, you're not annoyed that you didn't make it to the list. You are annoyed because some Tom, Dick, and Harry made to the list that shouldn't have been in that list. And it was that sort of animosity where I was like, I'm not annoyed because I didn't make it to I'm annoyed because this guy made it to and he
he didn't even try.
Yeah, I don't know why he made it to the list. That sort of negative mentality. Yeah. And she made a really good point. She's like, you've done amazing things, but you haven't articulated this well. Yeah. And so how do you go about having the processes in place to articulate this in a fashion that you can basically shine these lights a lot better when you come to this next time?
Wow.
And we did make to the finalists next time. So yeah, it's about a lot of people think about marketing as it's a point in time. It's about shining the lights on things that you're doing amazing. But it's also about doing things intentionally to be noticed.
Yes.
It's like, you're putting up a nice suit and, you're walking out of the door because you want people to notice you. And marketing is a lot about that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Attraction.
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's like, seeking eyeballs, right? Basically, that's what you're doing. You're grabbing people's eyeballs and attention.
Yeah. Somebody said this ages ago. I think I was at a marketing summit kind of thing in Bali. And one of the speakers was like, marketing is not just about attracting random eyeballs. It's about attracting your people, the people who resonate with you.
100%.
The way you dress, the way you speak, what your mindset is like. And if you do that enough, that's when you create a community around you. Has always resonated with me and sounds like that's what you're doing as well.
Oh, 100%. I think when I first started, and this is, again, me going back into, the thinking mode. When I first started, I was all about, our posts need to hit X amount of reach and it needs to be X amount of followers. And I was very sort of pedantic about it.
Yeah.
And then I realized, well, what's the point? I spoke to this guy who had, I think, 400,000 followers in his TikTok and Insta.
Right.
And I asked him, how do you monetize this? How much money do you make? Yeah. And he's like, I don't make any money. And I was like, what? Seriously?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I don't know how to monetize this. I just do this and I don't know what to do with, all of these people following. And I was like,
you're sitting on treasure, buddy.
Yeah. And I was like, so what are you trying to do with this? What is your niche? What are you trying to achieve? And he had no clue. And his market was so diverse, like there was no client persona, there was no audience. And then when we first launched our podcast, that was almost like a pivotal moment for me as well, because the marketer that I was working with was with Valor Media at that time. They basically said to me, Mozz, it's not so much about how many people follow you. You would rather have 10 people talking to you from 100 that follow you versus 1 million people following you and then still the same 10 people following, talking to you. It just, so it's always relative. You want 10% of a smaller pie versus 10% of a bigger pie, right?
Exactly.
The quality of the people and the quality of the people who follow you would basically bring a much more stronger community. And they will bring and build a much more stronger brand that would help you, grow a lot more faster. Yeah.
And that's a misconception so many people have, right? So many business owners have. We run social media pages for our clients, and a lot of them come back to us and they say can you create a viral video for us?
Yeah.
And we want 10,000 views or 20,000 views or 30,000 views on this video. Please get it for us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but why though?
Why? Yeah.
Why do you want that? Is that just an ego thing?
It's definitely a FOMO as well. Look, I make these comments to my social media team as well. That I think it's very it's a very FOMO. I'll have a viral video that I can talk about and showcase about. You know, A lot of content media, like influencers, they have this thing, like, you're walking down the road and someone taps you and says like, oh, I've watched you and I've seen you on the socials. And I think that's like really sort of a proud moment for you.
Yeah.
I have a voice coach. His name is Vin. He has like 3 or 4 million followers.
Yes.
Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And does a lot of social media. And so I've met him a few times. He's come in here. He's come on the podcast too.
Nice.
And he said, Mozz, do you realize like how long does it take for people to like notice you on a road? Like for them to actually, like there are 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you have like 2 million followers, there's like not even a 1% chance that you would be in the same locality as your follower, right? And so he's like, it hardly happens because that's what I used to think. I'd be like, Vin, like you it would be impossible for you to go to a coffee shop. Yeah. He's like, what are you talking about? Like
nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he was being very humble. We did go to a shopping.
I would definitely recognize him.
Yes, but I think he's grown. Like I'm talking about probably about 2.5 years ago, where
true.
a lot of his audience was US based, and so there was not a lot of audience in Australia, right? So he's like, okay, let's go to the coffee shop and see how many people recognize me. And I was like, oh, you must be joking. People would be just falling over you. And we sat there for like 2 hours and no one even came in and tapped on him, right?
How interesting
so
is that?
it's very interesting as to where your audience is sitting.
Yes.
And for a lot of influencers, that's an aha. It's a very proud moment as to, someone recognized you. Like your family and friends, of course they do because they always follow you. They don't follow you, they stalk you.
Yes.
But it's about the others, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
For sure. And it's not just about just one video going viral, right?
Yes,
you have to
100%.
have multiple videos going viral
definitely.
for you to then be that face that people start recognizing.
100%.
To start recognizing.
Correct,
you.
yeah. And you need to define the niche quite actively as to what are the type of people that you are trying to attract.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do attract the wrong crowd.
Yes.
I had this story where a friend of mine, he does a lot of webinars and open house webinars where he would do live webinars, etc. And he shared this story with me, and it's such mind-boggling because I was telling him that, oh, this is amazing. You can get so many people in a room. Right. And he's like, you need to make sure that you get the right people in the right room. And so the story that he shared was very interesting. He's like, I had this webinar where I said, any person, so we are going to teach you how to do no money down deals in property. And so you don't need any money for you to basically buy properties or do property stuff, etc. Right? And that was the hook that we went with. And we had 1,000 people registered. And what we wanted to do was basically sell courses. That's what he does. He sells courses, right? And so he's like, we were so excited, 1,000 people registered. We have never had such a full house. We had a big venue. We spent close to about $300,000 getting that people there. And we thought, okay, out of these, 1,000 or 1,500, I think he said, people that are coming through, even if we like, Jack, close, say 100 of them or 200 of them at $8,000 a pot, like that's amazing, right? We have made like 3 times the money anyway, right? Yeah. Or at least 2 times the money anyway. He said, Mozz, like the weirdest thing happened, and that was an eye-opener for me. Right. So we went and did the show, and we sold 2 courses out of 1,500 people. 2 courses. And I was like, and that was the biggest failure, like the biggest event that I ever did, and there was so much fun. Yes. But it was a failure in the event itself because we just sold 2 tickets, right? Yep. And then I contemplate. It's very hard. It's harsh, right? Yeah. Like you have done the biggest event of your life. Yeah. So much fun. So many people turned up. He's like, it was a full house. Yeah. Everyone turned up, but we sold 2 tickets, like 2 courses. And then I thought about this as to where did I go wrong? Like I got the people in the room. I had the right energy. Everyone was excited. No one felt bad about joining they all left good reviews, but only bought 2. And he's like, then I went back to the roots. So I was asking people who do not have money to come into a webinar where I'm going to ask them to spend money. Like they don't have money anyway.
Doesn't work, does it?
Yes. It's like, well, I got the wrong crowd.
Yep.
I got the crowd who actually does not have money. Yes. And they're there because they don't have money. Yes. And they're trying to learn how to make money. Yes. And so I can't sell them something because they actually don't have any money to spend anyway. So, and that was, again, that was an eye-opener for him. It's like, well, I learned the lesson. It was a very expensive lesson.
$300,000?
Yes. So, yeah, it's a lot of these stories that resonates with me, and I always focus on quality versus quantity. So yeah.
So for the business owners that are listening to this out there, how would you say they should take the first step to understand their target audience?
It's a $1 million question when you talk about target audience. I think you almost need to go back to understanding who are you providing the value to, and what value are you providing to your, what I call them case studies, right? Or, typically your typical users or typical users of your product. For example, and it's not demographics, it's psychographics. So you need to basically go down that path.
Love that word.
Yeah, it's not so much about, it's not so much about, okay, they are, 19 or 20-year-old male, blah. No. You need to basically go into psychographics around, okay, what do they eat, and how do they think, and who do they hang out with, and what are they trying to achieve in life? And so you need to have that sort of mindset when you're basically trying to identify the audience, because then you can resonate with the content. You can make a content that resonates with them. Demographic content is too ambiguous.
Yes.
You would attract too many people.
Yes.
That would not be focused as well.
Yeah.
So again, I think this is something that I learned along the way, that we were being very focused when we first started, and we attracted a lot of our client persona, which was really high net worth investors or really experienced investors, which basically meant that our sales cycles were really, really long because they were still investors. We were trying to basically convert them. So you need to be really careful, like what are you trying to attack? And you need to almost take a product and identify the client persona to that particular product, and then have the content against it.
Yes.
It's not so much about, I would have a client persona against the whole brand. That's not the case.
Okay.
If you talk about Apple, there would be people who would love Apple phones, but they would not wear Apple watches.
Yeah. So it's product based.
It's basically product based, and you need to go down that level of detail for you to identify the client persona. So yeah.
Yeah. Very nitty gritty.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know now about your target audience, how would you have done that event differently?
But it wasn't my event. It was like my friend's event. Yes. Look, ultimately, you need to be very clear in the messaging and what you're trying to do. So, we ran our own event for Real Estate for Women for the first time.
Yes.
And we were expecting about 100 people to come in. And everyone said, look, do a free event. And everyone would come in, and do nice food, and everyone would come in. And I was like, well, that's not the point, right? We want people who are actually going to take action. So I'm going to charge $50. And they're like, oh, no, it's too expensive. People usually charge $10, $15. And I was like, no, I'm going to charge $50. And if you don't want to come, that's fine.
Yeah.
And midway through the event, I was having second thoughts. I was talking to Varsha, and I was like, Varsha, did I make the right call? Are we too expensive? We've only sold like 10 tickets.
Okay.
We've catered for like 100 people to come in. We've booked in an Olympian who's coming in there. She would be really embarrassed giving her a keynote speak in front of 10 people. Shall we just cancel and call it a wrap?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I think it's right. We just need to, put a bit more effort in pushing the content out there, the right content. And so glad. I think about 85 to 90 people turned up. So very close to where we wanted it to be.
That's amazing.
And this was like paid event. And so I was like, wow, you've paid to come here? Like, this is amazing.
Like, tell me why.
Yeah.
But no, sounds like it had amazing content.
Yes. And so I think it was more about finding your right niche again and targeting to the people who were basically going to come there and make take actions.
Yes.
And so we did amazing. We helped people jump on to the side hustles. A lot of people jumped onto the calls for the property investment advice. And so, that money coming back was, we were like, okay, let's do the next one. Like, so awesome. It was very sort of, and so you need to be really focused on that. If I go back to my friend, about how would he do it?
Yeah.
I think, you need to be really clear and concise about what you are doing with what are you doing there as an event, and what is the value that you're providing, and be conscious about, okay, yes, there would be some sales and it might not be for everyone. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So are you using the same information that you got from your target audience, the research you've done? Are you using the same portfolios for your website, your social media content?
As in the post, you mean?
Yeah. So the content that you're making for your social media, is it sort of not motivated, inspired by the target audience you are attracting now?
Yes. Well, yes and no. So podcast is very focused on evergreen content. And so we want to make sure that even 5 years down the track, if a person listens to the podcast, it's still relevant, right? Whereas when you talk about short form content, it can be more about, okay, what's happening out there, what's happening right now. You're trying to get the hooks and basically get people in. With the written content, it's a mixture of both. And so you're trying to hit the key SEO words on the words that are trending and the key SEOs that you're trying to rank, and plus the everlasting content as well. So it's a mixture of both. So it's almost like, different stories for different platforms, different strategies for different mediums.
Yes.
And that's why, I think we went from a team of 2 to a team of 9 very quickly, because we realized that, okay, it's not a one man's job. There is so much that needs to do.
Yes.
And I still don't comprehend as to how much effort does it go. It's like, how long does it take? I was talking to my videographer. I was like, it doesn't take that long to, edit a video. I'm sure that I can do it in half an hour. He's like, yeah, you do it. I was like, yeah, sure.
I'll go get a coffee, you do it.
So yeah, I still sometimes underplay the amount of effort that goes in there. The amount of effort it takes to just create a single reel.
Yes.
It's just, I know there is a lot of tools out there and everything, but it's still, original content takes time.
It does take time.
Yeah.
And especially when you have strategies for different services that you're offering, but you're trying to move forward as a single brand.
Yes.
Putting that kind of vision behind a brand, it takes time.
Yes.
A lot of time and attention to detail.
Correct.
Yeah.
And because we have so many different smaller cohorts now, we have different client personas that we are talking to. So on the development side of the business, we are talking to high net worth clients. On the buyer's agency side of the business, we are talking to first time investors. On the real estate for women, we are talking about, single moms, single women who are basically trying to create side hustles, trying to, build a life of their own, build generational wealth. Then you have cash flow real estate, where you have astute investors trying to create cash flow and passive income. So it's quite,
Doing
diverse.
A lot.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting as to how do you target. And so you would have some people who would basically talk to various parts of the business.
Yeah.
But you need to track them and you need to see as to how many places that they've touched.
Yeah.
And that's the power that you give to your sales team, right?
Yes.
Because then, if they see that this person has come in and he has looked at, your Real Estate for Women website, and he has looked at your Helpmebuy website, and he's looked at your development website. And so they know that, okay, they've touched all of this. That means that they're interested in all of this. And so you have just empowered them to have a much more, deeper conversation, right? And so sales team love it because they're like, oh, this is gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm a nerd when it comes to data
Yes.
and CRM systems. So do you use a CRM system right now, and how do you store customer data, and how ethical are you about it?
Yeah, look, I mean, very good question. Thank you for putting me on point. We have used 3 CRMs in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Can you name them?
Yeah, sure, yeah. We started off with Zoho. Before Zoho, there was this, actually 4 systems now. We were on the first one called Bitrix 25 or something like that.
Yeah.
The worst system ever. Apologies, I don't know if you are an owner of Bitrix 25. We went to HubSpot.
Yeah.
Then we went to Zoho. We used Zoho for a very long time. When I say very long time, we used them for 1.5 years. It felt like a very long time.
Yeah.
But we invested a lot of money in Zoho in customizing it.
Okay.
And then we changed from Zoho to GHL, Go High Level.
Okay, nice.
About probably 6 months now.
Okay.
and yeah, I think still not 100% happy
Okay. Yes.
with where it's sitting.
Okay.
So every CRM has its limitations when it
For
comes to
sure.
like marketing and sales. So Go High Level does amazing stuff when it comes to sales and marketing, and I think
Yeah.
I'm still really happy with it.
Yeah.
Zoho used to do amazing when it comes to our fulfillment and the client journey.
Yes.
And so we are like, okay, we are going to stick with Go High Level for all the sales and marketing and let it handle it.
Right.
But then the fulfillment needs to happen somewhere else. And so we are almost like building our own system now to, do all the fulfillment,
Right.
outside the system. Yeah.
Okay. So what were some of the shortcomings of HubSpot you felt?
I think price.
That's usually the
That's the
biggest
first one.
Yeah.
Because it's the more users you add, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the biggest things for us. We very quickly realized because we serve at least like 400 to 500 people a year, we wanted to go down the path of giving client portals and client access to the whole CRM, which basically meant that HubSpot would never be a choice of platform because that would become really expensive really fast.
Yeah.
I love the data and analytics side of things, and the marketing side of things that basically came with it. And to a certain extent, I think the marketing team still uses some of those tools in order to grab some of the information from various different posts and doing some of the postings and managing some of the posting side of things. But as a CRM, I felt that it was just it would become, the bigger we get, the
Yeah.
more problematic it would become.
Yeah. Fair. And you feel like Go High Level is
Yeah.
sort of suiting you better.
Well, again, I think from a sales and marketing perspective, it's great. And the reason it's great is because it gives you the flexibility to adapt to your own internal processes.
Yeah.
And it gives you the visibility that you want from a user tracking perspective,
Okay.
right? So where are the users going through? It still has a lot of limitations. Like, if you talk about, Go High Level, the way it tracks the interactions is still very weird. The APIs don't work. Our dashboards are very manual where you have to get all of the data, put it into Excel, and then push it into dashboard. So there's still a lot of limitations there.
Yeah.
But it does a good enough job, especially like the communications of having everything at one place and the automated workflows that happens in the back end and
Okay.
the landing pages, etc., that comes with it. So
Yes.
yeah.
Amazing.
Do you have a preference when it comes to CRM?
Look, I'm a HubSpot nerd.
Okay.
I love everything HubSpot.
It's amazing though. Yes.
Yeah, it's
I
an
agree.
amazing tool. You can pretty much do anything with it. But
Yeah.
yes, there is a cost to it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my clients, I always promote HubSpot, but at the same time, if they do have a budget, I
Yeah.
usually push them towards something like Go High Level.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of email marketing as well. So
Yes.
we are actually email marketing, SEO, and social media is our bread and butter.
Yes.
So when it comes to email marketing, we say if you don't want to use a CRM system at the moment, go for Klaviyo.
Yeah.
If you want a CRM system, go to Go High Level and then jump onto to HubSpot
Yes.
eventually
Yes.
once you've grown as a company.
Yes.
Because we do feel like HubSpot is something that is expensive, yes, but it also has the ability to grow with you.
Yes.
So in the
True.
future, it actually solves a lot of problems that could arise.
I agree.
Compared to something like Go High Level, which is a bit more clunky,
Yes.
even though I do love
It's
the
very,
tool.
yes, it's very clunky. Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of preference, yes, I do have a
Yes.
preference for HubSpot.
I think ultimately what was happening for us also is that we had a lot of processes where you had various different websites talking to various different to CRMs,
Yeah.
and we had leads flow coming in from various different places,
Yeah.
ebooks, etc., all of those.
Yeah.
And Zoho was typically not working for us because it was Zapiers everywhere, zap, zap, zap,
Yes.
zap, zap. And I started hating not Zapier, but just the Zap, because they would keep breaking down.
Yes.
They would always have issues with it. So in some way, shape or form, I was like, I think HubSpot was a lot better in that regard
It
versus
saves you
Zoho.
time,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Because-
Because once a Zap stops working, then you have to go in and analyze why it's not working.
Correct. Yeah. And it's just such a painful process, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and so I think that's where the limitation for Zoho was. So it was doing an amazing job on the fulfillment side.
Yes.
But it was doing a really terrible job on the marketing and the sales side. And so when we started off on our performance marketing journey,
Yeah.
the marketeer was like pretty clean and clear. HubSpot, or go high level or I don't work with you. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay. So we spent like close to about almost 8 months changing the CRM and getting all the processes through, etc. And then now that we have done it and it's working, I had that conversation with the ops team like literally last week. I was like, I don't think that I'm happy with the CRM.
Oops. 8 months later.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So do you guys do email marketing at all
Yes,
right now?
yeah,
Okay.
we do. I think we overdo it. We haven't got it to the right level.
Okay.
With email marketing.
Okay.
Like we generate close to about 1,000 leads a month.
Okay.
So a lot of leads come through,
Yeah.
which basically means that, we need to treat people's data with respect.
For sure.
Yeah. And if you throw, and this is interesting, right? And this was a learning for me as well. When a client comes in and walks into an ecosystem, it's like, them walking into a house and imagine like there are like 6 rooms all lined up, and as they're walking through, every door opens up, hello.
Exactly.
And I'll be like, holy shit, like I don't know what's happening here. I just want to
Overwhelming.
get to the end. That guy is standing there, I just want to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
So it felt like that. Because you kept like throwing things at them. And so we still trying to find the right balance as to, okay, how many emails and how many texts and what does the client needs to know and what do they don't need to know.
Yeah.
And so what we did quite earlier in the piece, which has worked in hindsight quite well, is that when we were doing this work for client persona, we were basically identifying each client as what is their particular like segment. And so we see our businesses in 4 different segments, right? So we have a first-time investor, an experienced investor, a high net worth investor, and a property development person. And so we started collecting that information. So every client is typically identified as, okay, this is where they're interested. And they might overlap as well, 100%. Which basically meant that, okay, we can target some of these email marketing based on those preferences. And so we can't send everything to everyone. And so how do you go around doing that? I think that's the next step. And so I know the team is still talking about, how does email nurtures works and the customer journeys and, how many times do you interact and how do you bring them back into the ecosystem and I learned a new word. I think they call it the reignitation campaign. Something like that.
Campaign?
Yes, something like that. I don't know. So that was something that I learned again. I was like, whoa, okay, that's something new.
We used to call it re-engagement.
Yes. So
I'm excited for you. That sounds really exciting. Those things excite me so much.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thanks for answering those questions. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to social media, do you know are you tracking how much of social media is converting into customers for you at the moment?
Yes. Yeah. Look, I mean, I would say, I would talk about the new business and the repeat business, right? So, we would see about 30% of the business as repeat business or referral or repeat business that comes back to us. The 70% of the business that comes to us is basically through social media, because we are not anywhere else. Like I see almost like website as our social media presence as well. We don't have walk-ins. Like you don't see like a person walking through and say, I want to talk to this person.
Right.
Typically, to a certain extent, even if a person is a referral, say for example, you referred someone to come and talk to me, we would not talk to you directly. We would actually send you into our social media funnel. And the reason we do that, and this is an exciting thing, and we've tested this out numerous times, because if a client is fresh off the hook and they come and talk to us, we need to spend a lot more time in telling who we are and proving their credibility. Yes, they're a referral and we respect referrals, etc., all of that.
Yeah.
But, the lead times and the sale times becomes longer for these referrals because we are trying to prove our worth to them.
Exactly.
If you push them back into the social media, like the campaign, or I call them the buckets, what the social media does is it basically nurtures them automatically. And then so when they come to a sales call or when they come in and talk to us or anyone within us, they know exactly who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
And that saves us like the ton of information that you have to provide to them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that, and yes, it costs us a bit more money for us to put them back into the, the campaigns and, targeting some ads to them and, sending out emails and directed emails and all of that. And it costs us a bit more time. And the client feels a bit like, oh, I was supposed to talk to you tomorrow. And, they've given me a week's later date. They don't know.
Me homework to do.
Yeah. They don't understand that this is what we're trying to do in the background.
Yes.
We are prepping you for you to understand and respect our time as much as we are respecting your time. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what's the future for you? What does it look like?
What's the future? I think one day at a time. That's what I always say to a marketing team.
Yeah.
There's so much, the world of marketing and real estate, it's changing dramatically, like very quickly, very fast. I think the personal brands would play a really big role in the marketing going forward. And the way the AI is coming through, the next gen, like we are talking about AI and the voice tools and the voice recognition tools, typically, if you talk about the SEO and the Google presence, ultimately that's the go-to. Like I was listening to Gary Vee and I had an opportunity to meet him a few times now. And this is what he was saying. And that guy is like, typically like the god of social media. Like whatever he says just happens. I don't know why. It's just weird as.
Yes. He predicts the future.
Yeah. It's just weird. And so this is what he was saying. And I was like, wow, okay. Well, just don't listen to him when it comes to NFT and cryptocurrency because he sucks at it. But social media, I think is great. And so this is what he was saying. He's like, there would be a time in the marketing space in the next sort of 1 to 2 years where people would be like, hey, Siri, what is the best pizza place in, Essendon? And the city would be like, oh, based on the ratings, these are the top 3 pizza places in Essendon. And that's it. There is no video content. There is no one jumping on looking at what video content is because people's attention span is going to like 3-second videos to now 0-second videos. It would all be voice. And so that's why he pushes a lot more on the podcast and the voice content.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting. That, people would not have enough time to sit and watch reels or watch shorts because the attention span is gone. That's where he basically says that.
That's very true.
Yeah. And so the SEO becomes very, very important then.
Yes.
Because everything about your brand is guided by Google, who is going to take 2 seconds on basis of their AI algorithms to decide whether your brand is worthy enough for you to pitch it to the next person.
Yes.
Yeah. So your social brand typically means that, how strong are you on Google and social and SEO? How credible is your brand? How many reviews do you have? And how credible does Google thinks that you are? Not your client thinks, how credible Google thinks that you are. And so I think that's a big shift typically that we are projecting ourselves into. And that's why social media or SEO has become quite relevant for us. And we are going quite hard in that space as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of a spicy tone to end the podcast.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you've been following the Ambani wedding on social media. It is the most searched term on Google and social media at the moment. Ridiculous amount of money spent, ridiculous amount of people.
Yeah.
Anyone who was anything was at the wedding. What is your take on the wedding as a business owner? Because we know Ambani's the richest family.
Yeah.
In
India?
Asia.
In Asia.
In Asia itself,
Okay.
And they own a lot of different companies.
Yeah.
And you can see that all that, the branding and the social media exposure is going to bring them attention. How do you think that will convert into business for them?
Look, I mean, typically, I'll talk from a user's perspective and then talk about them being them, right?
Yeah.
As a user's perspective, there were so many opportunities for you to newsjack a lot of what they were doing and basically ride the wave. That's what we call in the PR world, newsjack certain things that resonates with you, even if it's controversial, because it's not going to make a $0 difference in their net worth of what you are going to say or do, right? But it would basically help you newsjack their story to lift yourself up and create more followers and get more eyeballs, basically, right? Of the right followers that you're looking for. And so there was a lot of opportunities there for content makers in that space.
Yeah.
From their perspective, look, I think everything is about attention these days, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's about them showing what sort of power they have. This is like, them, projecting as to how much control they have on people.
Yeah.
And so them projecting not just to inner circle, but also to the outer world that,
Yeah.
okay, they are the people that can truly drive business.
Yes.
In a very subtle way, you
Yeah.
know, when you're bringing in some of these high profile people in the weddings where some of these people don't even go to their, cousins' weddings and, dancing on the tone of, some random person, right? So
Yes.
I think ultimately it's a power play at its best.
Yes.
And that's how I see it. I think it's, you can use social media for a lot of these things, right? I don't know if you have heard of that Cambridge Analytica story
No.
about US and, the water banks in US. Cambridge Analytica, I think that's
Okay.
an amazing story. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And so they used social media to influence major things or major events in the world.
Okay.
That includes US elections, that includes
okay,
rights
cool.
in certain countries, that includes wars in certain countries, and they admitted to a lot of these Cambridge Analytica.
I see.
And it's an amazing story because it shows both sides of how powerful can social media be,
Okay.
and how can you influence people, using that data that you have. And Facebook became quite paranoid as to, wow, like people can do this much, and they were spending like $1 million a day in social media marketing.
Wow.
In order to change the dynamics of US election. And they did. They ended up
Wow.
doing that, right?
Right.
They have data to prove it that they have done it, right?
I see. Okay.
So it was like, that's how powerful it can be if
Yeah.
you can basically go down to that level of detail, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like that Netflix documentary about game, the stock.
Yes, the game, the stock, yes.
Yes. It's pretty much the same thing, isn't
Pretty
it?
much, yeah.
People
But this
just
is real
pushing.
life, right?
Yeah.
This is real. So Cambridge Analytica had to go into liquidation after that lawsuit that the US government brought
see.
against them.
Okay.
And the company still operates, I think, under a different name, but it's the same people still doing the same thing. So that's how powerful social media can be. So, yeah, I think you need to, like, as a business owner, if you don't do it,
Yeah.
like, you don't have any hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Data is king.
Yeah, data is king, and you need to put yourself out there. I think social media is something that you can't avoid anymore.
Yes.
You have to be out there selling your brand, building your brand in order to be in the mix,
Yeah.
or you become nobody. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, same here. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do it?
Look, jump on the website, jump on our Facebook group. It's called Property Investment Australia. My handle is Moxin Reza or Helpmebuy AU. So anywhere, you search Moxin Reza and I'm sure that, I'll come up. So
For sure.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you
and
very
thank you
much.
for the interview. We hope to have you again.
This
for
was
another
exciting.
episode. Yeah.
This was amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.